Welcome back to another episode of Black Girls Texting. It's your girl, Sade. Hey, bitches.
It's your girl, Charles Pinky.
I didn't know we were singing and I'm not prepared. It's Glenn. Oh, I gotta say.
That was melodic.
Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of Black Girls Texting. As we left you on that cliffhanger last week, we let you know that we will be joined by the lovely Tai Beauchamp again. She's back. She is in the club somewhere at the pool. You'll hear
Not the beach club.
Living
her life.
Living her best life. Again, she's our Black girl doing shit. Do we have any other Black women that we want to big up before we kind of just jump into the episode? I feel like, we're steamrolling. Is that when you go really fast? We're steamrolling because we have a lot of content for you guys. So you know what? I will quickly say Black girl doing shit. Shout out to our ancestors, all the Black women who laid the foundation for us to have the lifestyles that we live. It's time for us to do some work as well so that the babies in the future can shout us out, and hopefully we're doing shit and not just leaving them to a planet of destruction.
Period, because they ain't do all of that for this.
No, absolutely not. They probably like, this is ghetto.
This is so ghetto.
Why are we here?
Ashe.
I also want to stop saying that, guys.
So do I, but I feel
Calling
like
negative things
I
ghetto.
feel like it's like the N-word. Like I'm reclaiming ghetto.
No,
I know, but I've heard like white people say it and it makes me so
no. I don't let them say that. I'd be like, what do you mean by that?
No, I
Not
only
to me.
use
I haven't
it
heard
in
it
the
to
way
me.
to call like up like the like America ghetto, like
Okay.
Yeah.
you use it in a different
America
context.
is
No,
ghetto.
I get it. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I've been thinking about it. But yeah, continue.
I get you
agree.
though. That word used to trigger the fuck out of me. Like I
What do you
don't like
mean?
it.
I'd
No,
be
like
I'm
like,
that.
actually from a ghetto, technically.
I'd be like your grandmother's
Low-key.
ghetto.
People be saying rough too. That irks me. They're like,
Or like
rough.
or
rough
ratchet.
over there. Oh, I can't.
Oh no, I hate
stand when
ratchet.
they say ratchet.
Absolutely not. Okay, girls, let's
Yeah.
bring it back.
Yes, so philosophical and political.
Yes.
My fave.
Ty's coming back. Let's jump in. All right, y'all. It's time for the group chat. Well, y'all, we are back with part 2 with our big sis Ty. You know how she does. She's a fabulous woman living a bi-coastal. I can't even say bi-coastal life. She's living an LA life. So she's at
live
the
here in
pool.
LA. I live here in LA. I am officially LA. So like know that the LA vibes have really settled in, and I'm still Jersey at the core, but LA has kind of like permeated the spirit of Tai Beauchamp.
And
That's
you
how
might
I
hear a little of that as she gallivants wherever she is
sitting
living her best life.
Looking.
And if you know it's good for you, get on YouTube so you can see this beautiful lady sun kissed by the pool.
Yes, I
Giving
am
us a little
so
dance.
done with you right now. So where we left off was kind of talking about my mom's advice that there's no ring on your finger. You were talking about trying to kind of navigate as a single-ish woman, and I don't know where we landed.
What's your take on that advice from the mom?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I will tell you, I think that advice makes a lot of sense when you have the space, time, bandwidth, and don't necessarily feel like you are ready fully for it. So that is how I governed most of my life. Like, and I'm also a highly spiritual person. I don't know if we've talked about that, but like, even though I'm gallivanting and doing all this, I like believe in God, and I want to walk in a God-like and like the carpenter, not just Jesus, but like the carpenter. I want to live that life. That's my personal experience. But like with that, I think that, we have these experiences in time when you have room and space to kind of show up in that way. As a 44-year-old woman who is very intentional now, I think that, I've learned some of the behaviors and patterns that worked for me then don't necessarily apply now. So I fully celebrate your mom's advice. Like, don't act like a married woman. No, you're not 30 yet. Why the hell would you be acting like you're married? You're not. And I think that actually you want your potential partner or spouse, if you decide to go that route, to understand and identify with where you are now. I think that as you grow in your own kind of like wisdom and situation, it means different things. But I also want to say that I have a challenge. I'm challenged by the idea of roles. I think that that's very specific to and nuanced based upon the person that you're trying to be with. So the person that you want to be with might require certain things that are different from what you originally identified as what you wanted. And that's when we need to examine that. I debunk the idea of these traditional roles and the established roles and the, conformed and constructed roles that have been dictated for what it looks like. You decide that. You decide that for yourself. Now, with that being said, Sade, how you decide and define it for yourself works for you. It might not work for me. And that's cool. And I feel educated in that way because,
What are your thoughts around compromise? That's been a big word for me this year. And I feel like some people give it a bad connotation because it implies that you are losing something, or maybe you're not living your life to your standards, whatever it may be. And I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
I think we live in a very selfish society. And so I think to view compromise as something that is antithetical to our own individual growth is problematic. I think compromise also helps us to understand how to be compassionate, how to be empathetic, how to be sympathetic, and that's human. And I think that because we live in this society where everyone's trying to create constructs around like, oh no, you need to be your person. I think compromise is healthy. I think compromise is growing. That's what it is for me. And it doesn't always fit or it's not always suited, but I think that compromise in the idea of evolution and being beyond where you are in order to adapt and or to accept someone else's thinking is healthy. That's how we grow. That's how we evolve. Spiritually, personally, emotionally, professionally. Like, imagine if you didn't have someone in your workplace who taught you something and you're like, oh, that ain't the way I do it, but I'm going to compromise and adapt certain things and adopt certain things that you have presented to me that work. And I think that that's healthy. And I think that, quite honestly, one of the things I struggle with, I'm a proud Generation Xer. And when I struggle with this new way of thinking, it's almost like we have to be antithetical to everything that existed in order to pronounce who we are. Not so much. I think, I'm trying to be 44 and 22 at the same time.
Love that.
I love that. I also feel, oh, sorry, Glenn.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm sure your mom didn't mean it like in a literal way, Sade, but like I've heard like women our age who are like, well, if there's no ring on my finger, I can do X, Y, and Z. And I feel like that I definitely don't agree with. And your follow-up question about compromise to me flows into that because like you have to change like you have to bend, not break, right? You're in a new relationship. So some things need to change, right? And that's how it's going to develop into if your goal is marriage or if your goal is a partnership, I feel like you're not going to act the same way that when you were single.
Yeah.
Even without a ring.
I interpret it more so as like, we actually had a talk recently where I'm really trying to navigate like wanting to be, I don't know what you call this, because I don't want to be bi-coastal. I want to be like between here and Mexico. So
Bicontinental?
Bicontinental? I don't know.
Or binational?
Right, I'm going to say it's the same continent.
It's binational.
Yeah, binational. Yeah. Okay. And I was just like, oh, but like he has to be here, blah, blah, blah. And my mom was just like, listen, that's been a dream of yours. Like, don't like stint your dreams. Like you need to figure that out. So I think she's more so like a lot of people will bend and do things for a partner and then turn around and, oh boy, ain't even around. And now you've lost time and lost opportunities and lost hours.
And why is it
that extreme?
Yeah. And can I add to that, Chelsea? Like sometimes you dream up, like the dream evolves, and the dream involves more than one kind of like, you know, majority player or star, and it involves multiple stars. And so the dream can level up. I think that part of the challenge that I think we experience as Black women, especially when the dreams, when we talk about being the dreams of our ancestors and like the manifestation of those dreams of our ancestors, is that we're holding on to the dreams of what the ancestors look like when you didn't have the opportunity to create a new dream. I don't think a dream that we have, and even if it's a big dream, there's still opportunity to dream bigger and more expansive. And that might include a new player, that might include a new lead, that might include multiple leads, or it might be singular. And I think that, you know, if your dream was to live in Mexico and experience Mexico, that's a wonderful thing. But how do you do that with your partner? And what does that look like? One of my favorite columns to read in the New York Times, in addition to the New York Style section and the business section, is Modern Love. And like, one of the things I've learned over the course of the years of Modern Love is that modern love does not have to be dictated based upon the experiences of what our predecessors have experienced. So you might choose to be in Mexico for a month or two, and you might be polygamous then.
She wants to do 5.
I know, girl. I already know.
But that I guess that's how I was
Compromise.
thinking, like, what, it doesn't have to be that extreme. You can still have your dream of Mexico and figure out what could work with you two in Mexico. Like, maybe if you go like 5 times a year, he's included on like 3 trips or like something like that. It doesn't mean like Mexico's X'd out.
Yeah, and to Ty's earlier point, I was talking to Sade about this yesterday. You were saying that your partner is really into like being grounded and routines and kind of staying, like building the home space and being like a little bit more settled in. And that, I think, is stifling for Sade, but maybe you could see it in a whole new, exciting way. You could learn, there could be something powerful you could pull out of his routine and the way that he thinks it's important to build like a home and to, you know, pour
Girl,
into
don't give him
it.
all this credit. I know that's your bestie, but damn.
I just understand where he's coming from.
And also, I feel like if you feel like you're bending too much to the point of you're breaking, then that's also a conversation too. Maybe it's not a compatible match.
Bend, but don't break. I think bending is good because bending is an extension. So the thing about an arc, right? You know, when we think about a linear line or a radius, right, that goes across, or I don't know if that's what it's called because a radius is part of it, but like across. When you have an arc, it actually is more expansive. It also reaches up and it reaches down, whereas a radius is flat, right? And so we have to think about the idea of bending being something, and that's our narrative that we have to do. I'm doing that every day in life. I'm doing that every day in life in relationships. I'm doing that constantly in business as I'm negotiating. You know, it's a bend, don't break. How does this work for you? How does this work for me? And it challenges me in my thinking and also in my perception about what the global economy of support and care and deposit looks like. Because it's not enough to deposit into yourself. The global economy says that we have to deposit into others. So if others are bending and I'm bending, then that supports us. If I'm breaking, then that doesn't support me. If they're breaking, that doesn't support them. And so I think that, you know, as Black women and Black young women, I think it's really important for us to start to consider like a new narrative that, quite frankly, was not taught and wasn't inherent and also wasn't afforded to us. Our ancestors had to break. Now it's time for us to think about how we bend so that future generations don't have to break.
Oh, that was a bar. That was a bar. That's a clip. That's going to be on the socials. That made me think of just like a couple like offshoots. So you said something about the global economy, right? I've been thinking about that in terms of how, you know, Roe v. Wade was just overturned on Friday, right? And I think we're talking a lot about how we can all be supportive of one another, especially across this country. And I've been seeing people say that a lot of the reasons why all these treacherous things that are happening is because there's just a lack of empathy within these people that are like in charge of making these laws. Like they are deeply hurt inside of themselves. I mean, I think it's about money and power Truly, yeah. I know they're like, we
And
need to call in
who's giving them money,
capital.
who's funding
Yeah.
them.
They're like, we need to bring in compassion, right? I'm like, capital. We need to bring in capital. But
Right.
anyway, we haven't gotten to talk about this on the show yet. So just a little check in. How are people feeling? What are you thinking about?
Well, I feel like my immediate reaction, it's kind of sounds like an asshole, but I'm like, I thank God that I'm from New York and I live in California. And I feel terrible for people that live in places where it's just like their governments are going backwards in every single way. Like it's not just this, it's the fact that, okay, you have Juneteenth off, but you don't learn about racism and slavery. Like it's just like it's confusing, but it's like
Counterintuitive as fuck.
yeah, but it's like, damn, thank God I'm not there. Slash, I want to support how I can from my liberal bubble.
Yeah.
I think for me, I mean, it's so layered because if we were to really kind of examine this, and I had not someone I would consider a friend, but someone that I know, send me the history of Margaret Strenger and the founder of Planned Parenthood. And I know her history where she was, called out as a racist. I know a lot of the history, but I've been a proud supporter of Planned Parenthood because it's given options for the most marginalized. I think that sometimes the inception of an organization can really evolve as time evolves. And I do feel that Planned Parenthood has done that. And Alexis McGill Johnson, who is the CEO and president behind Cecile Richards, is a dear friend of mine. I say all that to say, I think when we're talking about legislative rights, when we're talking about the Supreme Court, one of the things that we all should continue to struggle with is that we cannot make a roar or a stink about rights without being active on a consistent basis. And part of the challenge with that from an institutionalized standpoint is that the system was never constructed so that Black, white, brown people were meant to be a part of this. This is built on a white patriarchy. And with that being said, I don't want to be too heavy, but I will say this. We cannot progress as a people and as a country until people are given physical first agency over their bodies. Secondarily, all the other things that come with that, emotional, spiritual, intellectual agency, all of that matters. But if we are encapsulating and saying you can't do this, we have to understand that that construct is not meant to propel us forward, and it's antithetical to what the institution of the United States was meant to be, even though I'm not going to go there because that's bullshit anyway, because it was built on the backs of slaves and enslavement. But with that, it's contradictory. And I think it's really important for women to recognize that if we have consumer power, we have legislative power. Mm-hmm. And so if we take our consumer power, where we are the people who are deciding and driving commerce in this nation and beyond, we have to be as dogmatic about driving it. We cannot talk about protecting children without protecting the rights of women who birth children. The shit does not make sense. And I am proud to say that I posted very powerfully, and perhaps to the surprise of even my parents, I had an abortion at 23 that I've never talked about publicly. I've talked about like fertility, and we talked about that the other day as we're here in part 2. We have to, 1 in 4 women in the United States have had an abortion. And it is something that we shun. And whether or not it's an abortion because you have had medical issues, or you've chosen not to move forward with that because of wherever you were in your life, or because unfortunately you were the victim of assault and or rape. It is my body. And I think that we cannot proclaim gender equality, we cannot proclaim sexual equality, we cannot proclaim racial equality without first starting with the agency of our bodies. And so
2 out of 4, I haven't said this publicly either, but I've also had an abortion, and I was very reluctant to talk about it because of, to your point, like the shame, the shunning, the, oh, you're you're too grown, you're too this. And it's just like, I almost felt like, oh, well, I need to go through with this because I could hypothetically financially take care of it, but I just was not emotionally ready to do that. And it shouldn't be forced on anyone. And I think what's super interesting, I saw a post where someone talked about the fact that this country was built off of slavery and people not having autonomy over their bodies. How could we ever expect for this government to care about women's bodies and them having autonomy? And even thinking about the prison system, like it's all so interconnected. And I really want people to think about that. I've been really trying to wrap my head around like what we can do, because I also think thinking politically, like I didn't necessarily feel like the Democrats have done all that they can either. And so I really want to start thinking about grassroots level, like how do we support one another? How do we think about, you know, the type of candidates that we want to see in power and not just necessarily vote along the same lines of that we've done for decades and decades, because we feel like, oh, well, this will be a wasted vote if I go with a more like grassroots group. Which is something that a lot of my friends have been challenging me on, that are get a little bit more on the left, we'll say. But this has been one of those things, one of those moments that have been super eye-opening for me, because I'm like, well, nobody's doing anything. It feels actually the people who are doing things are the more conservative people.
They are doing a lot.
Right. They have, I'm gonna say, they've been like plotting and planning and building into this so much. There's a really interesting episode, I don't know if it's on the Daily or Today Explained, I'll try to find it for the show notes, where they talked about how a lot of the strategy behind overturning Roe v. Wade was inspired by God, I don't know if it was Brown versus Board of Education, but essentially work that was done for integration.
Plessy.
Yes.
Ferguson.
Which is crazy. It's so crazy to me. So like they've been doing the work, they've been behind the scenes, they've been organizing, and we really need to start to do the same thing. And I really want everyone to start to consider that in the way that you're voting, but also the way that like you're working within community. I think that's super important. And I also, the last thing I'll say on this is, as much as this is very unfortunate, I think it's opening people's eyes to, we always thought the Supreme Court, or not, I never thought this, but a lot of people feel the Supreme Court is supposed to be nonpartisan and fair. And it's, you know, the level of the court where people aren't influenced by politics, blah, 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 all that bullshit. And it's not. It's not.
For sure not. And I think that that's where it's really important for us to realize as people of color, that voting in the, you know, the national election and the presidential election is not enough. Like, I think, you know, we don't really understand the system because we were not meant to understand the system. Women, or people who identify as women, or who were born from an anatomy of women, were not meant to understand the system. Black and brown people were not meant to understand the system. When you talk about legislation and how it's written, even how our governance is established, it was not meant for us to understand it. So what does that mean? That means that we have to do a lot more work to understand it. And I think that, quite frankly, we often sit in a seat of complacency. You know, I can be here in Los Angeles, here at this place, and in this moment, like, what does compassion look like when you see someone on the street who might not necessarily have the same access? And that's really important. And I think that would drive us to really kind of have an understanding or a desire to understand, not only for ourselves, but the person sitting next to us and behind us. I'm troubled by this in some major ways because, and I'll, not to get too deep, but I spent time with my niece, who is a freshman at a college here in Los Angeles. And she's a young freshman. She graduated high school at 17, so she's only 18. But you marry the idea of not being aware and really doing the deep digging of understanding the institutionalization and the systems of oppression that exist, with the fact that we have social media that creates and wants your brain to be buried over here. You're not ever thinking about these other spaces nearly as much. And so we talked about, you know, gender assignment and We talked about identity and whether or not you guys know there's a gem now too? It's a neo, they, them.
Z, is it with a Z?
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was still trying to figure out, because I know that she, them, they are pronouns, but I didn't know that we assign pronouns to people in this way. This is still new for me. I'm gonna talk to you all about it, like real talk. So like having a conversation with her about that, and she starts talking about Jem and what have you. And but we didn't talk about, Roe versus Wade or, Plessy and like what this means. And, I think that what this ultimately means is that we as marginalized people will have to seek knowledge. Knowledge will never be delivered to us. This is not the system of, media that I must quite frankly celebrate Jewish people for being intentional about. Like, I'm going to disseminate information to my community so you understand and know what's happening. And I'm going to put it in your face. We as marginalized people have to seek new media, because right now we're just getting trapezoid with the flyest look. And that's consuming us versus like real understanding. But I'll let y'all edit that. I'm gonna go offline.
Can I also just say one more thing? Like, I loved when you talked about voting and not only voting for like presidential elections. And this is probably in opposition of some of our friends who are like, don't vote at all, the system's broken, all that stuff. So Jamel Bowie, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He also writes for the New York Times. Wrote something that made me at least have a little hope in terms of like voting in the smaller elections and that something can still be done. He wrote, the Supreme Court does not exist above the constitutional system. It cannot shield itself from the power of the other branches. The Constitution provides a number of paths by which Congress can restrain and discipline a rogue court. So it's a bunch of things that Congress can do to fight anything that the Supreme Court does. So we still can push who we're voting to do what we want them to do. So it's not over yet, is my point. Keep hope alive.
Yeah, I agree. But I also want people to not necessarily think that they need to go with the status quo. Because at least for me, I felt like I've always defaulted to, and again, I don't want this to turn like too specifically political, but I've always turned to voting Democratic because I felt like if I went with another party, that I'm basically wasting a vote. And Democrats need to feel some heat under their asses because I don't see shit happening. And we can't just keep voting for you on default. So they need to start losing support so that they can take action. And we need to start giving support to maybe some of these more independent parties that we feel our votes being wasted, or at least they need to see that there's a decline and that they can't just, because you know what they're going to do. Oh, the Republicans did this to us. You're not a victim. You have power. That's why we put you in this space.
You can use it,
so you can call your representatives. You can harass them every day if that's something that you really, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, like, there are a lot more options to press the people that you're voting for outside of just like tweeting about it.
Right.
Absolutely.
But that I think that goes back to, in my opinion, the idea of, and this is part of the language narrative that we perhaps have to change. It's not enough to vote. You have to be educated and connected in this. I think that for many of us, because, the idea of voting was, a hallmark experience, right? Like as women's suffragette movement, Black people, like just being eligible to vote. So we focus on that, but voting without activity and engagement is not the same, because like, to your point, it's like calling, it's like being engaged. And I think that ultimately, and this is where I think it's really important for us to focus, why I love what you all are doing. It's about community. It's not enough to text. It's more important to organize around that texting. It's more important to like implant ideas, support ideas, develop new ways of thinking, and elevate community as a whole. And so we've leaned so much as a people on the fact that we tick the box to vote. Voting is not enough. Your activity beyond the vote, is what is necessary when we're talking about Roe versus Wade or anything else. Gun laws, all of that is so critical. And so I want to share that because I think that our thinking around the infrastructure around how this exists needs to trump what was institutionalized previously. We have a say. We have an active role to participate in and to drive. And, that requires a different level of engagement.
Should be all right. I want to remind people that there are midterm primary elections coming up. We're recording this on Monday, June 27th. There's one in New York on the 28th. There's some upcoming ones in Utah, Arizona, Kansas, Michigan. So just look out, give a look up for that if you weren't aware. I'm not gonna lie to you, I did not know the midterms were tomorrow, but my ass will be down there at the polls. And tonight I have to do some digging on who is on the damn ballot, but I'm gonna do it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Glenn.
Thanks
That's powerful. That's necessary.
Yeah.
I'm having so many thoughts. Like one, like I agree, Sade, in terms of like, you can't just vote one party and just think that that means that they're on your same page. Like I'm thinking about in LA, like, as you guys know, I've like donated to Karen Bass and like, that's who I want to win. But like Rick Caruso is like walking around here like he's a Democrat, but if you actually know his history, he's not. But a lot of people voted for him because he's the Democrat. He's the big known Democrat. But it's like, if you know the information, but again, that goes back to Ty's point, seeking the information, like doing the extra digging, like, and then your other point about like, it's not just voting and it's not just this topic. The amount of GoFundMes I see for like funerals or I need a surgery, it's like, why do we need to go fund? Like, why isn't there some sort of money for this if someone gets sick, healthcare? Like, it's just so many levels, but it's what you said. It's like a mixture of community and if our government gets off their ass and does what they're supposed to do.
Right. Like, I think it is wild that like you have to see these types of things pop up to pay for people's surgeries and shit. But I'm glad that that those platforms exist, because what would people be doing?
Yeah.
What else are they going to do? I think that's a really good example of community,
Yeah.
And then how do we channel it in ways that we really kind of get, and also recognizing that everyone's not always going to have the same level of engagement or concern about certain things, and that's okay. But I think the awareness is really important, which is why I'm grateful for social media as much as sometimes I loathe it, because it's awareness and conversations, even if we don't necessarily always align in the agreement.
1000%. I'm gonna switch gears a bit, but we're just coming off of BET weekend, and I know that you were out on the town, right, Ty?
I ended up not going to the awards. I had an incredible ticket and a wonderful seat, but my knee has not been great. So I ended up not going, and I have not seen the awards in its entirety, but I do know some hallmark pieces that happened, including Lotto. And also, like, let me just say this, and I want to answer your question, so I won't be long, but like BET, in addition to Wendy Williams was the first show that gave me my national platform. And so I haven't posted, but I will forever be indebted to Wendy Williams and Procter & Gamble for affording me the space to be on TV and give me this wonderful platform that led to a regular contribution for her show and other shows. BET was the first network that gave me my development deal for a TV host, and I'm grateful to them. And I have a lot of friends over at BET, including Tim Page and Kavia Pitts and Louis Carr and Steve, it's just so many people who have been supportive. And the thing I will say about BET is that we have to support organizations that have been there from the inception. And I know that there are often a lot of questions around, monopoly and organizations who own companies, but this is a Black-led and Black-run organization who I think really wants to be at the forefront of bringing us to the forefront. We might not always agree, but we have to support these institutions, BET, TV One, Aspire, and there are multiples, Revolt. we have to support them. So
I love that point. And I kind of raised that too, because I didn't watch the awards in its entirety, but the clips I've been seeing, I was like, damn, BET, like it seemed like they had some budget this year. To your point, Lotto brought out Mariah Carey. I was like,
She gave her
what?
flowers, which was so
Yes.
beautiful.
I thought there was just like a lot of positivity and just like really like impressive performances and just fire people on that stage, you know?
and I think the other thing we have to also always think about, and this is not just in media, but like in life, right? Part of the reason why I think Black girls text with the three of you is that you found a space where you can be yourself. Like as Black women, as Black people, as marginalized people, like where are the spaces that we can show up fully as ourselves? And how do we nurture those spaces? And so, recognizing that some people might not feel like they can show up at Black girls texting as themselves, and that's okay. But when someone does feel that, like, how do we nurture that? I feel that same way with Morning Mindset. I feel that same way with Brown Girl Jane. If you see yourself and you feel yourself, amplify it, because that's how we really kind of create the community that I'm talking about, that is so essential for us, that is so essential for us to build, to grow, and to deposit. So
Totally. And speaking of Brown Girl Jane, let's get into it. Tell us about the inception of this brand and, tell us all about it.
Yeah, Brown Girl Jane brings me so much joy because it's a tangible, physical way that for me, we can bring wellness and life and growth to people across the world. It was founded by myself and my Spelman sisters, Malika and Nia Jones, who happen to also be biological sisters, but the three of us all went to Spelman. So it's rooted in sisterhood. And we are all about how do we advance the wellness conversation as well as provide the resources, the tools, and the support system. As Black women, there are nuances for us. I think about, my days as a editor, and the wellness conversation was like Pilates and yoga. My mama never did Pilates and yoga. It looked like something different for my mother. Wellness for her was being able to hang out with her girlfriends. Wellness for her was being able to take a time to go for a walk. Wellness for her was being able to take a nap, And so what we seek to do as a brand is to support your journey to wholeness by providing support systems and solutions to, elevate your wellness journey. And so we started 2 years ago. We're sold at Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's. We'll have an announcement very soon about going into another national retailer that you all will love. And we're on 13 Loon. And we were, bootstrapped until recently when, another Black woman invested in us, the Fearless Fund with Ariane Simone and her team over there. So, yeah.
That's fire. I know you have CBD is like a element of your products, and I've been seeing that a lot in beauty. Can you talk to us about how CBD is like a wellness tool specifically for beauty?
Yeah, absolutely. So CBD is a part of the cannabis plant, otherwise known in many of our communities as weed or marijuana. I like to just say cannabis. Has more than 100 strains that you can extract from the plant. Some of it has psychoactive properties. That's the THC side of it. And then there are CBDs, there are CBNs, there are CBGs, but there are more than 100 strains. So with any plant, when you distill it, the properties change. CBD is actually found naturally in our bodies. So we all have something called an endocannabinoid system, and CBD is a cannabinoid. And so cannabinol. And so what happens in our bodies is our nervous system, our pulmonary system, our musculatory system, we have an endocannabinoid system. Your endocannabinoid system is what regulates your hormones. So it works to send signals to your brain to help you understand whether or not you're tired, whether or not you're energized, whether or not all those things. And CBD helps to regulate that, which is naturally in your body. And so when you extract CBD from the cannabis plant, which is naturally in your body, and it has no psychoactive properties, so you won't get high from it, you won't get a buzz from it, it helps to regulate what's happening in your body. CBD is an anti-inflammatory. CBD also like helps to, soothe kind of like, so if you're dealing with bloatedness, if you're dealing with PMS, if you have psoriasis, if you have eczema, and it's one of those unique kind of like derivatives like vitamin C that works topically. Vitamin C brightens your skin. That also works when you ingest it. So like when you're feeling sick, you take a vitamin C. So like CBD works that same way. And it's very few plants that work that way. It's 100% natural. And also, quite frankly, for Black and brown people, this is what we've done. Your great grandmama was always trying to make you a root tea. So this is what we do. She's trying to figure out, get the licorice, get this, get this. It's natural for us and it's instinctive for us, whether or not you're Native American, whether or not you're African, whether or not you're Latina. This is a part of how we have always done. So unfortunately, with cannabis in the United States, it has been criminalized. And that actually has everything to do with, and I don't mean to be so political today, the part two is the policy part, obviously.
We love
but
the
like,
politics.
The reason why it was criminalized, quite frankly, is because when we had the wine and spirits industry during Prohibition come along, they wanted to make sure that they create this institution. And we know that the wine and spirits industry is one that is highly commercialized and is a capitalist institution. And so what they tried to do is to minimize what the plant could do from a healing standpoint. Not to mention, then when you talk about the systems of oppressions that we have created and that have also been institutionalized by the government, how were Black and brown people trying to cure their elements? Right? So we had the Native Americans who were on the reservations that they were giving alcohol to. And then within our communities, it was drugs that they illegalized, quite frankly. But this is plant medicine. This is something you can find. This ain't real plant, but like, it's something you can find wherever. So we have to be mindful of that. And so, but I will also say, as Brown Girl Jane, we are not a CBD company. We're a beauty and wellness brand. Our first collection harnessed the power of CBD, which is an ingredient like a vitamin A, like a vitamin C. So we also have fragrances. We're all about decreasing stress and increasing your mood, and also the appearance of stress, both visibly and how you feel. So that's what Brown Girl Jane is.
Oh, yes. Wait, so you said you have a fragrance. Tell me about some of the other products, just so the girls know.
So we have a total of 12 fragrances, 12 SKUs right now. About half of it is CBD, which was the first hero ingredient. And then we have mood boosting fragrances where we partnered with the same company that helped to develop Tom Ford and a lot of those major brands. We were one of the first indie brands and definitely the first Black owned brand to partner with them in a way where we're introducing functional fragrances that help to increase and enhance the mood of us and help us to feel great as we go throughout the day.
Oh, I'm gonna
This
go to
is
Nordstrom.
so exciting. I know this is a big fragrance girl chat.
We were voted Essence Fragrance of the Year. We were also voted to Cosmo's top fragrances of 2022. Brown Girl Jane was also voted Refinery 29's Beauty Innovator of the Year. And we were also voted to WWD's Wellness Power Player. And we have been acknowledged by an organization and company called Unwinder as one of the top wellness brands for women of color and the only multicultural wellness brand centering the needs of women of color, along with the likes of Beyond, Peloton, and Aloe and some others and Goop. So we out here trying to do it. Shout out to Malika and Nia, my business partners and our entire team over there, Brown Girl Jane that holds us down, and to Nadia, who helped us to develop the fragrance with Firmenich.
That is so fire and impressive. And what? Oh my God, I just got so excited. I want everything.
I need to send you guys everything. I want you guys to bring it on. I want you to spritz it and tell me how you feel. So the fragrances correlate with joy, peace, and love, and they're named after destinations Bahia, Lamu, and Casablanca.
I love Bahia.
That is so much more.
Yay. Okay, that's
Tai,
exciting.
I feel like we try to give you your flowers as much as possible, but I feel like in this moment we just have to like emphasize what a powerhouse you are. I feel like you're so inspiring, and it's so dope to hear that like you created this, that there are Black investors, Black female investors. You're 3 Black women that you're like centering the importance of wellness for us and just like entering the game, because it's so dominated, not just by men, but by white people, white women. And we don't necessarily get to see ourselves in a lot of these businesses and these companies. And it's super moving because it helps me think like, what about that girl that wants to start something that doesn't think that she can? Like, you're working with fucking Tom Ford fragrance. Like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know. It just really emphasizes how much like the sky's the limit. And I love it. I love it.
And let me just tell you, I think you all are still at the beginning of what the journey is. And so I want to know this. Let me ask y'all a question. Let me do my hosting situation. I'm just saying, hey, what does wellness, and when do you ladies feel most well and whole? And I have to have you on, you good sis, for Brown Girl Jane, not just Morning Mindset. Chelsea's the only one that wants to be up with me for Morning Mindset. I saw you, Chelsea, come in the other day. Thank you so much, love. I love you. I love you. But like, what does wellness look like for you all? What is that? How do you define wellness for yourselves as 20 something, 30 something? We don't know if Chelsea's 17.
I love this question.
Take it away, Sade.
No, y'all go. They don't be ready.
I feel like extra time, like time to unwind, time to do things that maybe they don't pay me, but like things that I just like enjoy, and like spending time with friends. I feel like time, that's like, you can't get it back. And when you can just like spend it how you want to spend it, I feel like you are well in those moments.
I love time.
Bitch, that
I
was
love
profound as hell.
That was
that was really good.
You like
now Glenn feels a lot of pressure.
I'm like, I wanted to.
You should have went first, Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn's like, oh, what am I gonna say?
I don't know.
I'll give you more time, Glenn.
Yes.
As the resident Leo of the group chat and truly the resident Leo of the world, yes, I find that wellness for me is just like loving on myself. Like when I'm doing my self-care routine at night, or even just like overindulging in anything that just makes me feel good, I'm like looking at myself in the mirror. I'm like touching my skin. I'm looking at my face and I'm just like, wow, bitch, you're alive. You're feeling good. You're beautiful. And like, it's just super empowering to do that for me. Even when I'm like, ooh, I don't like this little pimple or whatever, but it's still just like, I don't know. It's that loving on yourself. And I think that that's super important, because for so long, like we grew up as little girls feeling maybe that we weren't as pretty, or our features weren't as nice, or our skin wasn't as nice. So to be able to really sit in like self-love is wellness for me. And
I think we need
a
to
little
do
Leo
it.
energy.
We need to do. Yeah, everyone does need a little. We need to do a Black Girl Sexing and Brown Girl Jane collab on a product, is what I'm thinking. So I need y'all to start thinking and brainstorming about that. Okay, Glenn, what is wellness like for you?
Good.
I mean,
it has a ring to it, right? I mean, Tam, I really did love what Chelsea said about time. Like, I
Glenn loves some time, child. She ain't never on time.
I'm never on time. I always need more time. I do struggle with deadlines and things like that, you know, but I do think it's because I have like I have anxiety. I have some anxiety issues. So
I have to get you our balance drops and our rest drops and our gummies, our gelées is what we call them. They're wonderful for anxiety.
I need that.
I stopped calling it anxiety and I started calling it
anticipation. Yeah. I remember as soon as I said it, I was like, I have anticipation. So right now, wellness for me is just like calming down my brain. Like I'm working on some activities where I just catch myself about to start over anticipating things and trying to just like undo all of that. But I do think that I feel most well when I'm out of my head and when I'm present in my body. And usually I feel the most present when I'm with people that I love and I feel like I have time to spend with them. And yeah, literally, like when I don't feel like I have to pick up my phone, when I ignore my emails and all that kind of stuff, you know, and just Spend time. Yeah, time is good, Chelsea. That's good.
I
Time is
need my
great.
earth energy sisters over here. Oh my God, all of you are super earthy because you're also a Capricorn type.
No, it's 2 earth and 2 fire.
But I have a lot of
but
earth in my
Glenn
chart. I lean really.
I have a lot of
goddamn
fire.
earth sign. Like, this is
Wait,
true.
Ty, do you know
Ooh, I need
do
to
you
do an
know
analysis.
your 3?
Your big
Hey,
3.
oh my God, I do, but I keep forgetting. This is
Sade will
me
do
in my
you real quick.
40s.
I'm about to be like,
Okay, so I'm
give me the
January-
birth time.
Okay, I'm giving you January 7th, 1978, Newark, New Jersey, 11:41 a.m.
11:41 a.m. and wait, Jan 7th.
Jan 7, 1978.
Sade look like a on
Looking
air
like Miss Clear.
She's like, what is that?
It's like, okay, tell me
Newark,
that again
Newark,
now.
New Jersey, Beth Israel Hospital, 1/7/1978.
Okay, I'm pulling it up.
Wait,
Give
let's
me a
share
moment.
and let's share ours with Ty as we pull it up.
You go first because I literally always forget what mine is.
Me too, but Sade knows it. So the sun is Capricorn.
Sade knows our
Oh,
shit.
the sun is Capricorn, the rising is Leo, and the moon is Sag.
Oh, cute. I don't know what that means, but thanks.
I'm I'm a
But
sun,
but I'm happy
Sagittarius
here for
sun.
all of it.
I'm a Sag sun, Taurus moon, Capricorn rising. So
I'm happy y'all all Capricorns.
yes,
Correct.
yes.
Not me.
Not Leo.
Not
Leo
me.
said-
I
So,
am
no.
a
She
A
gave
little
me the
lion.
West Indian moment. She was like, "Not me. Are you West
Not
Indian?"
me.
My
Well,
mom's
it's
side.
debatable. No,
Right.
I'm playing.
Your mom is
What's she
what?
gonna say?
Bitch,
Your mom
don't
is-
come. My mom's mom is.
Okay, yeah, you were giving me not me. I'm like, hey, where you from, girl? Where you from, girl?
I'm a Leo sun. Duh. An Aquarius moon, so that's where I get, really witchy and weird, and a Gemini rising, and that is where I get a little crazy, and I love that
That's a
combo.
crazy chart. I never really thought about
Can
it
I
until I
tell
just
you?
heard it.
Can I tell you about Sade?
Tell me
Yeah,
about
tell
it,
us.
please.
Sade, girl. That's all I'm gonna say, girl. Girl, I love it all, but I love y'all so much. So what am I, real quick?
All right, so you have a very exciting chart because I had a feeling there was fire in here.
There's definitely fire there.
So you're a Capricorn sun, you're a Sagittarius moon,
I
and
knew
you're
it
an
was a
Aries
Sag.
rising. So very similar to Chelsea in that double fire. But Aries differentiates a bit from the Sag and Leo in that they don't fuck around. Aries is ruled by Mars. So lots of like
war, right?
I hear Aries be
Yeah.
fighting.
Not if you
Aries
buck.
is like war.
Right.
Also something I just wanted to highlight to you, and we could definitely do this offline, Ty, anytime, but your Venus is in Capricorn, and your
Oh.
Venus is the
What you say? Oh, for Chelsea? What's that
the
mean?
ruler
What's that
of
mean?
love.
That's your
It-
love. That's
it's
how
your-
you do
it's-
romance.
yeah, it's
Chelsea,
your
come
love
meet
and
me,
romance.
Come meet me at the.
If you're serious, I'll pull up.
Pull up. This
Okay.
is where I am. I got like 2 more calls. Come on, girl.
Up on her.
That's baby
So
sis.
this Venus is very important. My Venus is in Virgo, and yours being in Capricorn, being Earth sign, it's very analytical. So when it comes to your love life, you are thinking through like A, B, C, D, or like it's not
I
as
know,
like
but I
flowy
love
and
him. But I
easy.
love him. But I love him so much. I love him so much. I love him so much. I love him.
Don't think
I
about
love-
it. Just go with your heart. Don't think about it.
I know, but he's not thinking about it, and so it's like all these thinkers, and we old thinkers, so we've been thinking for a long time.
Lots of thinking.
A
We
lot
could
of
do his
thinking.
chart too.
thinking.
Oh my God, we'll do Ty. Give me his get his info.
I'm
We'll do
gonna
his chart
text his
too.
mom and be like, what time he was born?
Yes. Don't even ask him. Just go straight to the mom. I love it.
Oh, girl, no, his mom loves me, and I love him.
So wait, are you gonna make a big declare of your love? Are you into like a public display?
Well, so
a billboard?
you also no, because that's
Messy
not my
Glenn.
personality.
Oh right,
and
public.
Capricorn
that is-
Venus.
So that's not me, right? That's not me. And so
No.
that's the challenge. It's like, he's like, you ain't said nothing about us. I'm like, booby, you be here every night. I'm like, we good. I love him. And he's teaching me a lot about myself and my love, and also about my evolution. We had a wonderful time. We had a wonderful time last night. So
Fabulous. You are
I'm gonna hang
glowing
out
right now.
I mean, I love him. I have
You
to
gotta
go
go.
I do something on intro. So anyone who wants to book time with me to have like a mentoring conversation, you can do it with me on intro. And I
That's
have
cool.
conversations. Yeah, you can book 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour with me.
Is this an app?
Yeah, it's called Intro. Hi, Tracy.
Okay.
I'm just wrapping a podcast, so I'm gonna add some time to us. So this is look. Tracy, say hi, Tracy.
Say hi, Tracy.
She's like, I don't know what we're doing. And then my assistant, this is one of my boos though. Tracy comes to Morning Mindset with Tai every morning on IG Live, and then she also comes to the hike. So we're gonna have to do a partnership with Black Girl Texting. We got to sell that.
We got a lot of things, a lot of partnerships, lots of link ups. Tai, thank you so much for joining us for a second time.
I love
As
you
we
guys
talked about
so
offline,
much.
come back
Look,
anytime.
Come back.
Anytime you want me back. Y'all are my baby sis that I love you so much. And y'all keep me cool. So like this 44-year-old is fucking grateful.
No, we are so grateful.
Tai.
Thank you so much.
Love y'all.
Bye, Tai.
So much love and blessings. Love you guys.
What would you do? So you had a what would you do, Glenn?
This is actually just kind of ridiculous, but I saw it, I think, on the Shade Room. I don't know if you guys seen this. I've actually been online today. How surprising.
That's why I was like, how do you know all these things?
I know. This woman was airing out her baby father because he brought food just for their kid, but she has 2 other children.
That's weird.
And she was like, how you just gonna bring food for my 1 kid and I have 2 other kids?
Like he has 1 kid with her, but she
Correct.
has 2 previous kids and they all live together and he brought food for 1 child.
Correct.
That's weird. He's trifling as fuck. I would
He's being petty. He's being
That's
petty.
weird.
You think, okay, because a lot of people in the comments were like, well, that's not his responsibility. Those are not his kids.
That's ridiculous.
But how you gonna
a
bring food
kid's
for 1
meal
kid?
costs all of $6
and their children? Like you
exactly.
Don't be
and that puts
petty
the mom
with
in a
children.
weird situation because how does that work? The little boy is gonna go over there and eat at the table and be kicking his legs while he's like sipping his little juice, smacking and making a mess with his fries, and the other kids are sitting on the
that
floor.
man is petty.
He's eating McDonald's. The other kids got food at home. That's not fair. I don't like that.
But what I don't like that, but what I will say is I don't know, how was that communication? Like, oh, I'm picking up something for, you know, the racist in me. I had to undo it because I was going to say a certain type of name.
I knew you were.
And I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to say for Timothy.
Period.
Jonathan. Right. Because honestly, we don't know if it's one of ours.
It's on the Shade Room.
Yeah, it was one of ours. His name could still be David or whatever.
Right. So anyways, she was like, all right, so you're going to pick up a Happy Meal for Timothy. She could have been like, and make sure you get one for Benjamin and Anthony as well.
But I still wouldn't put the blame on her in terms
Not
of like
the blame.
not blame, but like responsibility in terms of her needing to communicate. Because it's like, they're my kids. Obviously, they're with me. Like, they're not.
But is it his responsibility if those are not his kids? And does it set a precedent?
It's
like every time he brings something, got to bring something for the other people?
It's just like, have some class.
Yeah,
like,
it's just
you don't bring, like, that's so tacky. You just bring, that's like, I would think it's equally as tacky if I have a friend staying with me and I just order myself a sandwich and don't say anything. I know some of us wouldn't, because some of us are
different.
When it comes to food orders, I'd be fending for myself. I'll be like,
okay, that's a very American thing, I think. But
I'm like, sorry, I got really hungry. There's a lot of good places. Would you like to order something?
Okay,
we're all in a house. We're all gonna eat.
This is going left. I think that's a little bit different. I agree.
This is even worse because they're kids.
It's very classist. It's very tacky. It's not very thoughtful. I think he's likely being petty, but I also wonder if she was very clear that the other children were there and to get them something, even if it's like, if you want to get down to like pettiness of dollars and cents of it, like, yo, pick up my other kids, something else, I'll Venmo you. Again,
yes,
classless of him to not do it. Like, either way, like I think as a just human being, because I don't even want to say as a man, as a human being, you should just be thoughtful of other kids. But
There's
people be
kids.
moving petty and weird these days.
But we also don't know what his money is looking like, all that type of stuff.
Right. There are so many
know,
variables. Like we don't know
You don't
if like
know.
his kid with her is like 5 years old and the other kids are like 28 and 29.
Right. We don't
That
know
would be
who
a
they
different
were
situation
inside.
where you're like, I don't even know if they're home. But I'm just assuming that if
They're
she's
all
pissed,
young.
there's a reason.
Yeah. I mean, she was lighting his ass up. I don't know. I get, because it's just like every time he brings food, then is he bringing food for the other kids every single time? What if he wants to treat his son to something special?
Then pick him out.
Then pick him
So
up
say
and take him.
Pick
Pick
him
him
up
up and take him.
and say we're having a daddy Sunday.
Yeah.
I just think a lot of people have lost like manners and like
Yeah.
class and like God, I'm not racist, guys, I promise, but like we're acting like white American people. Like there are certain things that I don't
see what
think
you mean.
black people
Oh
do.
yeah,
like,
we
in our
look out for
culture.
everybody.
our
We feed
culture, like
people
yeah,
as
you
kids.
feed people. You don't. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you're not coming to my house and I'm cooking myself a small portion of rice and beans for myself, and you're sitting.
No,
and
man,
eating.
no,
That's
crazy.
fucking
Yeah.
rude. That's tacky. That's not how we were brought up. And I think it was funny because my friend of the show, you guys are friends with her, Taylor and I, we were watching Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, and everyone came to Dorinda's house with a gift. And the only people who didn't come with a gift were Phaedra and Eva. And we were both like,
Bitch, my
"That
eyes
is
are
so
wide. I'm
You're right.
come to
surprised.
someone's home and you're staying there for a week.
Or at least they didn't show
you
it
don't
in the
bring a
clips. They
gift?
didn't show it in the clips.
Facts.
You come well, it's nothing to show. You show up at the house with the gift in hand.
In your
That's
hands.
the first thing you give someone if you're staying there for a week.
Well, I'm
sorry,
saying
that's
if
tacky.
the editors, we don't know if the editors were being petty, but yes.
Because did it become a
I think
topic?
some people just weren't raised right. No, it
No.
didn't. It didn't become a topic. It's just something that Taylor and I
Mhm.
noticed because we're like, oh, that's so nice. They brought her a candle. They brought her champagne, and then they
Yeah.
came with their hands swinging.
No, you don't do that.
You don't
That's
do
so
that.
awesome, no.
I do want to make a comment on the precedent thing though, in terms of, yes, like, are you trying to take advantage of a situation where maybe the father of the other kids
It's not involved.
is not involved or is not doing the right thing, and then
Yeah.
using this young man to provide for all of your kids? I think that's where it starts to get a little funky.
But he knew he was having kids with a woman with 2 other kids.
Well, we don't know the order of the kids.
I think that was the thing. That was the little kid, the most recent baby daddy, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I heard
I-
him talking about it on Clubhouse. That's why.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Yeah,
okay.
so no, I don't know the details.
Not
Me
in
neither. I didn't see the
Clubhouse.
post. I didn't see the post. I just heard like
Yeah.
the end tale of like someone bringing this up. But okay, if it was the youngest kid, in my opinion, you knew you were having a baby with a woman with 2 other kids.
Yes.
If you didn't want to deal with somebody else's kids, then you shouldn't have matched up with her.
I was just thinking about how potentially complicated all that type of like organizing has to be. Like, what about Christmas gifts? And one kid gets more than the other parent,
Yeah.
like bought the other kids. Like, how do you manage that? Do you just ask all the dads for money, and then you pool all the money and you buy the gifts? But then
You should ask Nick Cannon.
the dad doesn't get.
Right.
Then I literally started thinking about Nick Cannon. I was like, how the hell is this man doing it? And like, is he a polygamist? Why is nobody talking about that? He has mad kids that are like the exact same age. So he's having multiple
He's a
relationships
hotep.
with all these women. That's what it feels like. I
Yeah,
heard
that's
him, he
what
was
it
on he was on what's that shit called? Lip Service. And they were just kind of acting like, they were just like, oh, so how do you deal with having, like, how do you spend time with all the kids? No. Let's talk about how you were dating like multiple women at the same time. Like, what's that about?
I
One
don't
of
think he was
them
dating them. I think he
Or
was
he's just like
impregnating
having,
them.
and he's doing it
having,
at
Spreading
the
his
same
seeds.
slings and
It's a
affairs.
hotep thing. Yeah.
but one of
Mm.
them, I think the most recent one, no, because I don't think she had the kid yet, but one of them talked about how they schedule with his
The
assistant,
assistant, I saw that.
and so he can show up to certain things. I'm like, spreading your seed, doing all of this to have a packed ass schedule.
Right.
Yeah,
Do
I don't
you
know.
have the time, the wherewithal, the bandwidth?
I don't know.
I know that's the other argument because everyone's like, well, he's rich. He can afford to have as many kids as he wants, but we all have the same time. So
Right.
there's
Right.
no way he's giving all those kids.
He's on the private jet from
Family.
one birthday to the next.
Yeah.
They
That's so
hours
stressful.
apart.
Yeah.
That sounds very stressful. He might as well move them all into a home. You know, that's what he want to do next. If
That's
he's
some morbid
really
shit. And I
also,
watched
like,
that show.
Oh, I didn't see
Giving
that
like
yet.
God complex too. Like,
Mhm.
I want to spread my genes as much as possible.
But then like Rastas do it. Some Rastas do it, and then I don't find it as strange. So I don't know.
Why? Why you don't find it?
I don't know.
So
Like I
strange.
have a dream to have a Marley son. I just would love that.
Oh, I see what you mean. They do that, but I feel like they have like relationships with those women. Like,
Yeah.
they just have lots of
Yeah,
different.
this is true.
And
This
then
is true.
they're
It is a little
all,
bit
like,
different.
cool with each other.
Yeah.
They look at the like they know the other moms and stuff. The kids know the other kid's mom.
Or
It
like how
seems more
Erica Badu
familial.
does it.
Yes.
Yes.
All like
Exactly.
friends.
Speaking
Yeah.
of which, before we end this out, Summer Walker.
Yeah.
So what's going on? Is she pregnant? Because her stomach looked flat at the
I know the
beginning.
abs. She had
She's
abs
pregnant.
popping.
With abs though?
Yeah, because
It's early.
she did that. I think when she did her BBL,
She did ab etching.
she might have done etching, and so it's still. And she's a small girl, so I think it still will show. I'm assuming just based off of how her body looks, and then eventually it'll
Pop out.
expand.
Yeah.
Or imagine
But she
if you
said-
just had
she
abs
said
over
she's
it.
pregnant.
What if it was
Doesn't
always
allow it
there
to
and it
come
got
out.
big?
I don't
Oh my
know. Shit is
God.
scary.
Or
We
either
don't know.
or.
Yeah, like what if the baby can't grow because the abs are etched
Like,
in?
Yeah,
tight-
I'm
they're
assuming
tight
she
on
did
them.
etching just because the way they look. You know,
I don't even know what etching is. Is it like they tattoo it?
No, they kind of like the way they're doing the lipo is
Oh, they
that
suck it
like
in a
it can really show each abdomen.
I thought they went in there with and they like started etching literally underneath the skin, like making lines.
No, because we have abs. Like even if you're like
True.
a
But
big
I don't, but they're
Glenn,
not
what?
like that though. No, because I seen a man that had that. You saw him, Sade, and like it's like loose around it.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that was.
I
I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was. That was some other shit.
Maybe it was implants. I don't know.
Well, thanks for listening, y'all. Yeah, this was just a lot going on, but what do you expect?
Yeah, as always, follow us on all of the platforms. We are Black Girls Texting on everything, basically. We also really want to shout out our patrons who have been helping us pay for everything. We so greatly appreciate you guys. And if you're enjoying what you're listening to, join. I think the cheapest one is like $5 a month.
Mhm.
And it really is helpful. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.